So the question was, when it comes to baptism, if the child is baptized and the original sin is washed away, even if the parents have no interest in bringing the child to church, have no interest in raising them in the faith, doesn't that still remove the original sin? The answer is yes. It would still wipe away the sins of the baby, and it would condemn the parents at the same time. Because the parents will be making a promise as part of that baptism that they are going to raise the child according to the teachings of the Catholic faith, and they have no interest in doing so. So they remove the original sin from the baby and at the same time condemn themselves. And when it's a grandparent, just to throw in a little side bone, who's forcing the parents to baptize their child because the child has to be baptized, at the same time, the grandparent is forcing their child, the parents, to commit sin because they have no intention of raising the child in the faith, and they're only doing it because the grandparents insist that the child has to be baptized.
So then is that on the grandparents? Do they have a sin like the parents do?
No, the grandparents would not have it on them. But it would be in the back of their mind, if they really think about it. I'm forcing my child to baptize their child, and at the same time forcing them to be condemned because they're not going to live the faith that they're promising God that they will. I mean, when we really think about those promises that we make at baptism, and even the renewal of our baptismal promises, when we're saying we're going to reject Satan and sin, and we believe all these things, and we're going to do all these things, what are we actually saying? If we really think about the words, it's like what I talk about with the Our Father, and I talk about the forgiveness part, when it says, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us, trespass against us. What if I don't forgive people for the things they do to me? I'm asking God to condemn me. I mean, that's the meaning of the words. Forgive us our trespasses. Forgive me of the sins I commit against you, as we forgive, as meaning in the same way as we forgive those who trespass against us. Well, if I don't forgive people, I'm telling God, treat me the way I treat other people with regard to forgiveness. Forgive me the same way I forgive other people. And if I don't, what happens if the person that I refuse to forgive is myself? That's another question. I refuse to forgive myself. Will God hold that against me? Because He's forgiving me or willing to forgive me. But I have to also be willing to forgive myself because Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. What if you don't love yourself? These are those little tricky things that are there that we say all the time, but we don't really think about what it means. Loving God and loving neighbor also means I have to love myself in the correct way, not this narcissistic, egocentric way. I have to love myself as a creature of God, worthy of respect, even if I make mistakes and even if I've done bad stuff. I still have to love myself, love my neighbor, and be forgiving of both. It's not always easy, because sometimes we do some really bad stuff. But remember, God's not looking for excuses to condemn us. He's looking for ways to get us into heaven. If He wanted to condemn us, He didn't need to send Jesus. He didn't need to give us the church. He didn't need to give us the sacraments. He didn't need to give us devotions. He didn't need to give us the example of the lives of the saints. He didn't have to give us anything. On our own, we would do it ourselves. We would just screw everything up. But because He wants us to be with Him, He gives us everything. And if that's true, He's not trying to condemn us. He's trying to forgive us. And if He's going out of His way to forgive us, we have to forgive ourselves too.
What about, like, if a woman has an abortion and she's trying to get over it, she's confessed it and all that, but she still has that guilt or whatever, and she still Is that something God takes into consideration if she died before
Of-
she really got to the point where she forgave herself, because that's a traumatic experience?
Of course. You have to remember, God understands our hearts better than we do. And if the person is working toward forgiving themselves, working through those emotions, God takes that into consideration. And even if we don't reach perfect forgiveness, all it takes is a drop of forgiveness, and He can expand that to what it needs to be.